Wonder Woman issue 1, or legacy numbering 801. I appreciate that on the cover.
Yeah.
They should be doing that for all the books that could be using it. But this is Tom King writing with Daniel Sempier on the art. So, obviously this was announced a while ago. There's been a bit of buzz building up to it, and it was kind of exciting because, Tom King's been doing all these miniseries, and he's basically become one of our most excited and spoken about writers on the show over the last few years. But he's not really been doing any ongoings, and hasn't really since Batman. It's just not been his thing. He's been doing other stuff. So this was interesting to see, okay, what's he going to do with a completely different character, new ongoing book, all that stuff. And I thought this first issue was basically phenomenal. I don't know how you feel, Matt. Take it away.
To balance again, what deal did Tom King make to keep working with all these fantastic artists?
I don't know. He's got Trigon in his back pocket or something.
He must, because Sam Pierre, fan of his from working with Tom Taylor, is on Suicide Squad, right?
That sounds familiar. Yeah.
Yeah. So Sam Pierre's work on this book, there's a lot of quiet moments balanced with a lot of frenetic action moments, and it's balanced so well. King is, I don't know how King writes, but I don't know if he writes with the artist in mind and kind of leans into their strengths, or these, artists just play into Tom King's strengths. But this was so well balanced, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's I can't really think of a Tom King book that has a zany layout style. He always tends to have pretty straightforward, kind of good, solid, just 9-panel grids and simple layouts. But I think, I wonder if in some ways it kind of helps the artist focus less on being flashy and more just the raw fundamentals of the storytelling, and it almost elevates it in a way.
And then when it's Garrett's and King, they know each other so well at this point that Garrett's can add a bit of flash to it, and then that makes it stand out from the typical 9-panel and 6-panel type stuff.
Yeah, and not to say this is 9-panel, but the first page is, it's effectively a 9-panel grid, but the bottom 3 are 1 panel, so it's a 7-panel grid, I guess, if you want to put it that way.
Yeah, and just a lot of the art, the art when the action gets going, right? It opens up and it's got this Amazon in this little dusty town, and when the action kicks in, right, we get the big splash page, and everything just pops around it. So, yeah, I definitely say the art's a highlight here.
Yeah, I think the art's great, but it's not even the first thing that I took away from this book, because there's so many books that try to put in political commentary into their comics, right? There's so many comics that'll try and talk about ongoing things and subjects that the writer feels important to talk about, and so much of it can come off as feeling a little bit heavy-handed or a little bit forced. And I think what's so impressive about this issue is that it pulls in 2 huge political topics and does it in a way that it feels like, no, this is just what the story's about. So nothing feels, it's not like we're doing another story and it's forcing some metaphor into it. It directly turns the Amazons living in the US into immigrants that the country wants rid of, as well as, of course, dealing with all the sexism that's buried on top of that. So, so the plot of this book, for anyone who's maybe to kind of explain this, is that the opening is we're in a dive bar, and this Amazonian woman, who we don't really know. I mean, maybe as a character from the past or whatever, but I don't think. I don't know who she is. But it's this blonde Amazon who gets groped by some idiots in this bar, and she protects herself and fights back, and then all the guys in the bar start attacking her, and we find out quickly after, there's a great page where it's just looking at the windows outside the bar, but you see blood getting smeared across the glass, so it's
a splatter.
Yeah, she's not just beating them up, she is mauling them, and we get the kind of the almost traditional page of comic books where it's all the news reports, all the newscasters talking about what this event was, and 17 men have been found dead. The only 2 women who were in the bar were not killed. So what's so smart about this 9-panel grid of all these newscasters is that it goes through like a period of time where the story is evolving between each panel. It's not all just like, because I feel like typically when a comic book does this, it'll be the same news show and it'll be two newscasters talking to each other, and it'll go backwards and forwards, maybe debating. Here it's like, no, we're jumping ahead in time with each one, so by the time you get to the bottom of the page, you've actually gotten quite a lot of development in the story, because it goes from being, okay, 17, or was it 19, whatever it was, men were killed, and then a couple panels later it's like, oh, and the authorities are saying they're looking for her. This is a woman who did this. And then it becomes clear she's an Amazon, and then it becomes clear this. And this issue then becomes about how the country turns on the Amazons and wants to deport them and hunt after them, because they basically see this as a terrorist attack that they have to respond to. And it basically raises, and we see like people on the news turning the opinion against Amazons. And bizarrely, the smartest thing this book does is that it leaves Wonder Woman out of it for like 2/3 of the issue. Like she's unseen. There's a narrator who does mention her, not by name, but sort of like you can tell that he's talking. Whoever this is clearly talking about Wonder Woman, like when she's going to get involved, when she's doing stuff. But we're introduced to the guy, was it Sergeant Steele?
Sarge Steele. So I did a deep dive on him, and he's an actual old Charlton Comics
I
character.
believe it, because there's one line in here about him feeling wringed during Amazon's attack storyline, and I'm like, okay, this is an old character that King's going to dive deep into.
I was getting like, this feels like King Faraday, because it made it sound like he was a counterpart to Waller, right? Like him and Waller have a lot of overlap, but Waller seems like she's better at getting the right people on her side than he is. So doing a deep dive into it, King Faraday debuted in the same issue Sarge Steele did, right, for DC, because they redid him. So, but he's always been a thorn in the side for the government, right? He's never like an out-and-out villain, but he's definitely representative of that bureaucratic, the government doesn't trust superheroes, all the way back to the Charlton comic days, which you can kind of see in like Watchmen, right? Because those were all based off of those characters. So King using him is a very smart, as kind of this foil for Wonder Woman, because it feels like there's something personal here for Sarge Steele to round up all these Amazons.
Yeah, well, I think it works really well though, because like he is introduced here as if he is a new character, in the sense that I don't think you need to know who he is. The book does a good job. It gives him this big introduction where he assassinates these two guys. It's just his job. We see that he's got these like robotic hands that fire bullets, basically, which sounds silly when you say it out loud, but it feels sinister in the scene.
It's very 60s spy type stuff, because it's a gun hand, for lack of a better term, and he's just very point blank about it, where he's like, I was supposed to be doing something else, but time's of the essence, and just finishes the job, which again tells how good he is at his job.
Yeah, and it sets up that he has connections, that he basically just hands the guy who works at this restaurant where he's committed these murders a card, and it's like, hey, give this to the authorities when they arrive, and they'll just clean everything up, and everything will be fine. It gives you this sense of power. And there's a page after this which shows you, and you get the sense that this is Diana talking to Steve, but you never see them. They're just kind of in silhouette, and they're walking next to the Washington Monument. It's a really pretty page. But this idea that the opinions are turned. So the next page after that is this politician talking about how, my daughter loves Wonder Woman, but let's be real, these Amazons, they aren't American. They come from an island where there's no men, and they call that paradise. That's not equality. And he's just like churning all this stuff. And
I believe I've heard like people, when they bring up Wonder Woman, say these same things, right? So this is something that is in the public consciousness, for better or for worse. So for King to have like this politician character parodying that type of stuff too, it adds another layer. It kind of breaks the like it brings the real world into comics, right?
Well, I mean, that's what I started this whole thing by saying, is that it brings these real world like issues and makes them a fundamental part of this story, where that itself is the story. It's turning Wonder Woman as someone that, if not the American public, at least the government body of the American country is going to rally against, and you've got these people spouting on news programs about how she's a threat, or about how at least Amazons are a threat. And then we see this whole scene where Sarge Steele goes to an Amazon's house and says, "You're being deported." Like,
you and your whole family, right?
Yeah.
Including her wife and their child, who are both American.
well,
right?
actually, well, no. But both wives are Amazons, and
Okay.
they said they're not deporting the child. The child's going to a detention center because the parents, the kid's not going with them.
All right, so I read that as the lady, the wife, wasn't an Amazon. They had met, but I might have misread that.
No, I think they both are. Yeah, I think they just say
Okay.
that the daughter was born here, so she's an American
Okay.
citizen, but both mums aren't. And the basically the one who's talking to them out the front, the other one gets suited up in Wonder Woman like gear in the back and comes out trying to fight them. But they're prepared. They kill her in front of the house, and it's this really dark scene. And the kid comes running out and is crying her eyes out. It's a whole.
Yeah, it's super brutal too, because it's just a hail of gunfire. And is where we realize that is this where he talks about that they've made like the bullets are different? Or is that when he's talking to Wonder Woman later?
No, it says that here. Yeah, they've made bullets that go through Amazon steel or whatever it is. So, and then you get this like senator who's on the news, and the newscaster's actually challenging him and saying, "Hey, you're taking people away, you're tearing up families, you're doing all," and yeah, you can you can imagine hearing this about regular immigrants in the real world, the way he's talking. And the senator, whoever it is just like, "Oh no, but they have to obey the laws, and these are the laws. We have to draw a line. No one wants to force a family out, but this is the truth of it." And so, and we get like some panels here showing that there's other examples where they've had to kill some Amazons. Like, this is not just a one-time incident. This is pretty monstrous, whatever it is they're doing.
And all of these soldiers are faceless on top of it too, right? They were in the black bloc, the goggles, the helmets, and they're all, they're just soldiers.
They're all in SWAT gear, yeah.
Yeah, compared to the Amazons, who there is a difference between them, right? So
this whole time you're thinking, okay, but what's Wonder Woman's reaction to all this? Like, we're sort of operating this with barely mentioning her, and we go to Themyscira, and Nubia is sort of being informed of everyone's coming back to the island, blah blah blah, and this other Amazon says, "Hey, Diana gave me her sword," and she says the reason why she gave me this is because, and what she must now do, she has to avoid temptation. And it's basically this idea, it sort of like builds up the hype of, okay, Diana's going to respond to everything that's going on, and she's trying to make sure, this is basically saying, this is pissing me off, and I don't want to be tempted to stab someone.
Yeah. If I have a sword, I'm going to use the sword. So here's my sword.
So it's all been building up to this great scene where we're at the cemetery where the victims of the opening scene, because that's the thing in all this. Like, I think you have to remember here, and this was in my mind as I was reading this, is that there's an Amazon woman who did murder 17 people and is out there at large, and that she probably should be taken in because she can't go around just killing people willy-nilly.
True, but it's all about the escalation of the response, right?
I know, but I'm saying she's still, they're not even paying attention to her, though. They're not looking for her. They're just prosecuting everyone who's Amazon instead of looking for the actual murderer.
Right, that's what I'm talking about, the escalation, right? Is that they're just using this as an excuse to round them up. It's almost as if she doesn't matter. That the inciting incident doesn't actually matter. That just gave them the permission.
Which is what I like about this scene, because when they move up towards Wonder Woman, and you don't see her, right? They sort of still just sort of focus on the soldiers. You see her blurry in the sniper sights, and when the sniper takes the shot, you get the full page spread of her, ricocheting the bullet with her bracelet. Gorgeous full page. Wonderful is you've waited 2/3 of the issue to get to actually see Wonder Woman, and it's a big moment. They really sell it. And
so she has the doves around her too, to go with all the snow, right? And it's a real striking image because she's standing out with all the color on this white background with the snow on the headstones and whatnot. It looks really cool.
Yeah, it's all just shades of white, basically. And she's obviously popping with the blue and the red and all that. Because this scene though, like Wonder Woman herself is who brings this up. Like since the newscast basically on like page 4, whatever that was, like the actual murderer has barely been mentioned, right? It's all been just what they're using it in politics to like drive people out and away from the country. And Diana's like, I'm here because I have to find who killed these people. Like I'm going to find her. Like this actually is important to stop whoever this is. So we get this big action scene here. Diana is using her lasso against the SWAT team. She throws her tiara at one point. It's it's really fun, and obviously because the book has largely been, more slow build up. This is the first time you really get like a full on action sequence, and the narration. Because this is the other thing about the issue is that you don't know who's narrating it the whole time. It's not until the very end of the. And I was trying to think. I was like,
me too.
Who is this? Who is talking here? And she eventually, and that towards the end of the fight, when you get that panel of her punching the SWAT team guy in the face, and you see like the glass shattering from his goggles, it's beautiful stuff. But she has her lasso, of course, right? And she wants the truth, so she grabs like one of the SWAT team guys in her lasso, and basically, asks some questions. Because immediately Sarge Steele's like, hey, no, we were just defending ourselves. You attacked us. So she lassos the SWAT team guys, goes, hey, was I attacking you when you started shooting at me? And he's like, nope, I just followed orders to line up the shot and pull the trigger.
Yeah, so she grabs the sniper dude from the tree, right? And that's the one that she's interrogating. And I also love how she drags him over with the lasso. So her and Steele are in the same spot, but as you go down the page, he gets closer. So that added for a fun little late moment as well.
Yeah. As you're going down the page, like, he's been dragged across the snow. And I think what's so effective about all this, and what makes it feel so cathartic, that she does just tear them apart. And, at the very end, she literally crushes his robot hand, Steele's robot hand. Is that throughout the issue, it feels like there is nothing stopping, the forces in the government, Sarge Steele and the politicians that support him or have employed him even, like, they are getting away with this. They are turning public opinion. They are sowing these seeds of doubt. They are murdering Amazons in their homes. They're deporting the ones that they don't fight. And it feels like they're getting away with this. And then you get to this point where he tries to encounter Wonder Woman, and it's very cathartic that she turns around and beats the piss out of them. And it's like, this is where it stops. This is where the line stops, where we have some hope, because she is going to try and solve this. Then the odds seem insurmountable because, like, all these ideas are already being spread, but it's like, no, she is not going back to Paradise Island. She is going to stay here, and she is going to fight this head on, for better or for worse. Probably better, but I imagine...
Yeah, well, you would hope.
I imagine it'll get worse before it gets better, just because storytelling tends to go that way. But it's very good. So, all very good. So, and then so they officially make Wonder Woman like a fugitive. Like there's a warrant out for her arrest, and we see people reacting to this where they're like, "No way! Like Wonder Woman's a hero. This is all a bunch of nonsense." And we see like a mirror of the earlier page where it's Steve and Diana next to the Washington Monument, but now it's on the other side of the water, and they're having another conversation. And Diana's like, "Yeah, Steele, didn't really know a whole lot, other than that there's someone that hired him that he doesn't know. It's someone mysterious that keeps his identity a secret, blah, blah, blah." I think the more interesting thing for me in this scene, though, is this idea that she even sort of prods Steve, like, he's one of your colleagues because he's in the military, and he's like, "Look, I could get court-martialed for even talking to you. You're a wanted fugitive right now."
Well, it's like one of those things, too. He says, so when you said your man, you meant, right, subtle. And so he goes, not every soldier is every soldier. Any idea how many court-martials I can get just for this walk, right? So that's even throwing the line in there that, like, yes, whilst, Trevor's still a soldier, right, he's putting a lot on the line to come and, walk with her, if you will. Yeah, it's the end of this page where she says, "Have you ever heard of the Sovereign?" And then that leads us into her ending, which is the reveal of who the villain of this right now is. So we still have, so this is the thing, we still have this Amazon who killed 17 men at the start of the issue,
who's still out there, clearly has some anger issues that need to be addressed. But we're introduced to the Sovereign, who's the one who's like playing the chess pieces and like turning the public opinion against everyone. And we see he's got a butler, he's got a crown, which goes with the name of Sovereign, and it turns out that he has the lasso of lies, and he's this old dude who's been around for quite some time.
You know, it's super nationalistic, and I do not like it, and I feel that that's the intent, right?
Oh yeah, no, I love it because it is fundamentally Tom King here has got a villain who the entire point is manipulating the opinion of a country and playing the politics game, which, given that Wonder Woman's always been tied to Washington, does actually make sense to do a story like this. And plus, on top of that, the lasso of lies versus the lasso of truth. It's this idea of manipulation versus what she believes in. So, like, as far as mission statements go, this was an incredible first issue because it was like, okay, it's establishing a tone, it's establishing the key politics and themes that we're going to be playing with. It tells it in a really engrossing way where you're building up to the reveal of Wonder Woman and how she's going to react to this, because it's all pertinent to her, but we're kind of like intentionally avoiding her for a lot of the issue. I thought that was very effective because it felt like a big deal when we see her, and then when she kicks the shit out of all those assholes, it's like, yeah great. You know, kick this shit out of ice. I mean, the anti-Amazon squad.
They're called Axe too, so it's the same kind of three letter.
Yeah, that's true. They're called Axe. I forgot that. You're right.
Yeah. So the thing with the Sovereign too is at the top of the page it says it's it's not our name but our title. It's been handed down, right? And it goes back into American history, and that even before what we have recorded as American history, that's where the lasso of lies was found. So it's even going into this more, stuff that's in the headlines now about, what is actual history and, what's being taught and what are those lies.
Yeah, I was a little unclear. See, in that whole, like, it being passed down thing, I was a little unclear if it was literally just like a family line of father to son to son to son, or if it was more like there's a whole group of people who are the Sovereign and it's passed down just from group to group. I mean, the fact that there's a final page with one character wearing this crown would imply it is just one person at a time. But the way it read to me felt like, oh, maybe there's a bit of wiggle room here where there might actually be like a group. Because I think it's the way he said we are the Sovereign. It made me think.
Well, he says that, and he says "are" a lot too. So even if he's just the Sovereign, the fact that he is talking about it like there are more than one. Right? Like this is a big, almost a group effort. Or if that's what he's talking about, like, the whole lasso of lies and what it's capable of, right? If it's about, persuasion and turning people's mind, now they're on the side of the Sovereign. And just what that means too, and with a lot of the modern day politics that Tom King's wading into here, just this whole idea of a sovereign, quote unquote, king of America. You know what I mean? Like, this is a very pointed attack at certain types of people, and I'm here for it, right? And especially with Tom King's, he was a CIA guy, right? Who knows what he did, and who knows what he saw, right? Like, so, I don't know what type of CIA work he did, and usually that's not in the country, right? CIA is usually international, but shoot.
Yeah, it's usually
I'm sure.
see, because the way I always remember it is the FBI is about investigating stuff internally, and the CIA is more about investigating threats coming from outside.
Right, and so the whole idea that the call is coming from inside the house here, coming from that perspective of they're trying to kick out people out of the country while the threat is actually internal.
Yeah, I feel like. For anyone who works in an organization like that, like King did, I think if you have critical thinking, if you have your beliefs and opinions, and you maybe see how like narratives are being spread and like the orders you're getting and like what you're focused to target and things like that, like I wonder if a lot of the reason why these themes do come up in his book, and especially with this because he's directly talking about manipulation of the masses, of the public, to gear the direction of the country. I have to imagine that his views on this do stem somewhat from maybe some of the I always say missions like he was at, an operative going on missions. I just mean,
his work experience, like some of the stuff he was seeing that's left an imprint on him. Because I felt the same about Rorschach and a lot of the political stuff there, you know, about, you know, the when Rorschach kills or tries to kill the guy that's running for president, and a lot of the stuff that he was saying, that felt very informed from like a real place that King, you know, has encountered some of this stuff. And similar here, when we got to that page and it's this old dusty man sitting with a crown on his head, I was like, oh, okay, this is, and it's also something new. Not in the idea of like a brand new character or anything like that, but it doesn't feel like this is territory that Wonder Woman has tread on, you know, like you were talking about. She's in Washington. It's usually we play with the mythologies and,
I mean, I think thematically it's kind of been done in the sense that, you know, you've got the idea that Ares is whispering lies into ears and things, but I feel like this is veering more towards more, sure, yeah, we've got this old guy who's got the lasso of lies, but it's been used as a sort of extension of like more real world like lies and manipulation and propaganda and trying to make the people hate a group and say it's their fault that we have this problem, which, you know, that's something Hitler also did, just FYI.
Dictators and fascists all across the globe do the same thing. They find the concept of the other, and everything is the other's fault. And the reason it's so effective is because people want to be part of a group and they want to go against someone else, right? That's why sports is the way it is and all this other stuff. But it really takes an evil person to turn someone against someone else and blame all your problems. So yeah, and just I think Wonder Woman in a way that, you know, we can have Superman and Batman encounter these themes, but they're, you know, the whole idea of Wonder Woman as this symbol of truth and virtue.
It feels perfect for her. It feels, you know, this is a story that he's written intentionally to play to the strengths and themes of the character.
Right.
And I think, you know, I think this could end up, you know, if the quality holds up, we've only had one issue. It's hard to say right now, like, how important this run will be when it's all done. It could fizzle out. His Batman run did fizzle out, so you know, there's possibilities of that. Yeah. But at least from this first issue, like, there is a chance here that this could be a very important run for the characters, you know, in terms of defining her relevance in the modern day world and kind of what she stands against. You're saying we're specifically saying this is the character that stands against this type of behavior, this type of manipulation, and I think that could be quite powerful. You know, because I think, you know, the other characters stand for something as well that you can easily translate into the world. Superman is very much, you know, he's also an immigrant, but he's very much this idea of compassion, of you know, being good even when it's easy to be bad, and like the strength it takes to have that. Batman's about using your resources and getting over trauma and all these other things. You know, look, they all have their things that the writers play on. It's
what Morrison always said about that superheroes are the modern pantheon of the gods, right? And each of them represents something different. And here, you know, we've had, you know, Wonder Woman actually involved in pantheons, but she's always never really like in pop culture. She's a lot more malleable. Here, I feel like King is very much pointed. You know, this is what my Wonder Woman represents. This is where her spot is in that new pantheon, and it feels kind of similar to that Rucka run where Rucka made her, you know, back in the day, you know, before the New 52 and Flashpoint and all that stuff. She was a diplomat, right? And she tried to handle things peacefully. She wasn't this warrior princess. And that was Rucka's point of view. So even one issue in, I feel like we already have a pretty good handle on King's handle on her. So I'm excited to see where it goes.
Yeah. I really couldn't have asked for a better first issue, honestly. And I was excited, but like I think because like his last ongoing book did fizzle out, I wasn't letting myself get particularly hyped for it. But it kind of just like right from the get-go, that opening scene just grabs your attention, and it's like, okay, an Amazon murdered people. That's a great inciting incident. And the only thing really going against it is that part of my brain the whole time was like, oh, when's the daughter showing up? And she doesn't, because clearly that's something we're getting to later. That's not an issue one thing. And that's fine.
Well, because I almost expected like a backup of Trinity and stuff, and then when it didn't happen, like I wasn't disappointed, but I was like, okay, so he clearly has a plan, right?
Yeah. This feels like something with a long-term like idea in mind. So yeah, this was a longer issue, by the way. This was like 40 pages. Now I don't know if it's going to stay this length, but it'll have a backup next month instead.
Right.
Or just the regular size main story, because this was like, you know,
at least 40 pages, right?
Well, 30 pages of actual story.
Okay.
So yeah, I think all the page counts are inflated this week because they all have that 4 or 5 page preview for Godzilla Kong at the end. So yeah, they're all inflated by a few. But yeah, so there you go. That is Wonder Woman issue 1. Matt, what are you rating the book?
I'm gonna say 9.5.
Straight in there, eh?
Boom.
Yeah, honestly, I find it hard to disagree with that. I think it's an exceptional first issue, and the art is, as mentioned, phenomenal. The way it uses, the fact that the entire first fight with Wonder Woman is in this snowy setting, like you say, makes all the colors pop. I think this old guy, the Sovereign, at the end looks just dastardly and villainous, the way he's sitting there with that skull, and you've got the golden eagle above him, so it's like, oh, he is the worst of America, just personified. Okay. Excellent. So I agree, 9.5. Let's do it.